Hello, Michael Tracy, TYT. There is about to be some kind of apocalyptic storm here in Los Angeles, but that is not the topic of this video. The topic of this video is a Medium post that I just published moments ago. I wanted to just outline the basic thrust of it and encourage you to read it in its entirety, and it will be linked in the description box. Basically, I was lucky enough not to follow along live with the long-awaited Trump press conference yesterday. Obviously, the entire political media was totally transfixed with it, and they compete with one another to rattle off the most witty anti-Trump jokes and ripostes and so forth. These kind of pseudo-journalistic competitions unfolding before your eyes. So I missed it in real time, and then I watched it later. And what was so striking to me, and I hope was striking to some viewers, is that the main line of inquiry that the media feels compelled to pursue in its engagements with Trump is still Russia. It's been Russia for months now. Remember, Trump's supposed ties to Russia or lack of aggression toward Russia, or maybe compromised status vis-a-vis Russia, was the main line of attack that the Hillary Clinton campaign used against him during the general election period. If you go and look, that was the main theme that they harped on day in and day out. And of course, Trump, in some sense, fed on that line of critique. One, because he probably correctly assumed that it was not an effective criticism of him. People don't wake up in the morning caring desperately about Putin or the Russian intelligence apparatus or anything like that. So obviously the criticism failed to resonate, and Trump won the election. Okay, so it's now been like 8 months since that emerged as the main anti-Trump line that the media was doggedly pursuing. And fast forward, February 16th, yesterday, that was still what they're talking about. Okay, so why were they talking about it so incessantly yesterday? The most obvious explanation is that because Michael Flynn, the national security advisor, resigned this week under pretenses that ostensibly had to do with Russia, but the underlying offense that he was accused of committing, communicating with his counterpart in Russia during the presidential transition time period about how the Trump administration would reevaluate certain policies with respect to Russia once they assume office, and that he urged the Russians not to overreact to the sanctions that the Obama administration had levied and the expulsion of diplomats that Obama carried out in late December as one of his final foreign policy acts as president. Michael Flynn spoke on the phone to the Russian counterpart and prudently, I would say, said, don't overreact to this. We don't want an aggressive, antagonistic relationship, so just be cool for the time being, and then we'll reevaluate later. But of course, this was trumped up into some kind of incredible controversy, evidence of Trump being compromised or colluding in some kind of untoward fashion with the Russians, because that's the line that Democrats, liberals, and some conservatives have been obsessed with for ages now. So that was the main line of criticism at yesterday's dramatic press conference that everyone flipped out about and had a meltdown over. Even though it was pretty in keeping with what Trump has been doing since literally his campaign began in June 2015. He just goes on these stream of consciousness rants, brags about aspects of his professional portfolio that he thinks people are going to be very impressed by. So, of course, yesterday he was talking about his electoral college victory and blah, blah, blah. So people were freaked out over this. And then if you go look at the transcript, the number one question that was posed at this press conference by who were supposed to be representing us, the people, in the chapel of the executive government, otherwise known as the executive branch of government, otherwise known as the White House. They were asking about Russia. And the tone and framing of the questions had to do with this criticism that Trump has not been hostile enough toward Russia. So if you go look at what Major Garrett, who was the White House correspondent for CBS, asked Trump, he basically tried to goad Trump into attacking Putin. He tried to reprimand Trump for not being sufficiently robust in his response to alleged provocations that the Russians have carried out against the United States, such as this deployment of a spy ship, which I'm not sure is the terminology that is most accurate, but this deployment of a spy ship off the coast of Connecticut is supposed to be this major provocation that Major Garrett really wanted Trump to respond to in a bellicose fashion. Now, is bellicosity the impulse that you would most want to encourage in a guy like Trump? He's plenty bellicose as it is. He's already expressed bellicose positions with respect to other foreign states, such as Iran. And yet, the media, rather than setting out to rein in that impulse or to counteract it or to constrict it, what they want to do is encourage it, but have Trump aim it at another country which he has somewhat prudently decided not to be antagonistic toward, or not as antagonistic toward as the foreign policy establishment would like, Russia. So that's the main line of inquiry that these guys are pursuing. And you could imagine some legitimate questions having to do with Trump's relationship with Russia. Obviously, Putin is an autocrat. He's not a world leader that I would look up to, or that most sensible people, I think, would feel is especially virtuous. And maybe Trump's instinct to allow the Russian military to just run rampant in Syria and potentially kill civilians, that would be something that I would want to ask Trump about. Hey, have you tried to exert pressure on your counterpart Putin to refrain from or to be more cognizant of civilian casualties that the military strikes, the Russian military strikes in Syria might produce? But no, of course, that's not something that the media cares about. They just wanted to try to gin up these salacious scandals, which make people want to tune in to, say, CBS, or to click on the CBS website, because it's salacious and exciting when there seems to be a scandal afoot, and when the scandal has to do potentially with a foreign power compromising the president. Wow, that's like a spy thriller, right? So that's the line that they want to pursue. So it's depressing. It makes one have less confidence in the integrity of the press corps. And Trump is obviously trying to position himself as an antagonist against the press. And it makes it hard to defend the press when this is the stuff that they are fixating on. If the press was very noble and always concerned with what is in the national interest and always rational and prudent, then that would probably be a little more of a imperative to stand up for the press when they're attacked by the president, when they engage in a very alarmist fashion, and they don't engender much sympathy even among their colleagues. I mean, to the extent that I'm a colleague, they don't engender much sympathy for me. So that is the basic outline of what I wrote in that Medium post that went up a short time ago. So go read that. They have the citations and the exact quotes. And subscribe to the TYT Medium account. You can also subscribe to my individual Medium account. Subscribe to both. Why not? 2 seconds of effort. So that is about it. I will have a really interesting and I think searing segment or a video package coming up soon on a topic that I don't want to spoil right now, but be on the lookout for that. I know that was very vague, but what are you going to do? Okay, so long.